Hi muckers, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're all having the best day ever. Thank you so much for clicking on my video today. I really appreciate your time and I appreciate you being here. And I'm super excited for today's video because we are picking up where we left off with what we are doing on my channel. That was a very weird, long way of describing it. But basically, if you're aware, a couple of weeks ago, I started reviewing and going through the Shane Dawson series. Shane Dawson series. The collection of episodes of the documentaries that Shane Dawson was making. That's an easier way for my brain to process it. And also frenemies. I have two playlists on my channel right now. There's a reviewing frenemies one and there's a reviewing the Shane Dawson ones. We've done a couple episodes and a couple different of the Shane Dawson documentaries so far, but we were in the process of doing the TanaCon one. Now, we've done the first episode, so if you want to catch up, it'll be on the playlist. We're going on to episode 2 right now. I'm not going to recap the previous episode, just to cut time down, and if anyone has watched the first one, then you don't have to like rehash watching the same content again. But anyway, we're going to be starting with the second episode now of the TanaCon series, and it is called The Truth About Tana Mongeau. Now, my first note is, can I just say how lazy all of the titles are for this specific Tana series by Shane? Literally, it's like, The Truth About TanaCon, The Truth About Tana Mongeau, The Truth About Michael Weist and TanaCon, The Truth About TanaCon and Michael Weist. It literally is like, and then it's like, the real truth, the real truth, the exposed truth. Shane was lazy with this series. I think he was probably rushing to get this one up, that he really put minimal effort into this one, because even comparing it to the one episode Eugenia Cooney one we watched, there was a lot more effort put into that one, or the Graveyard Girl, there was a lot of effort put into that. I didn't think it was that enjoyable, but I mean there was a lot of effort put into it, and I can see that as someone who, you know, edits, you know, whenever I was in college and stuff. Not now, these videos are the bare bones. But anyway, this Tana one is really lackluster, and the editing, the thumbnails, everything about it is subpar. It's really bad. But anyway, that's my first note. So it starts with Shane Dawson texting Michael Weist, which is the CEO of Good Times, which was the company that was doing this TanaCon event with Tana Mongeau, saying that he wants to interview him to keep it as balanced and fair as possible. Now, keep in mind, Shane, whenever he's not talking with Michael, is like, I'm going to keep it as balanced and fair as possible, and then whenever he talks to Michael, the attitude that he has with Michael is completely different than the attitude he has with Tana, so it never was a balanced or fair point of view that Shane was ever giving across with this series. And I think that that's one of my biggest criticisms with it, is that Shane Dawson literally made this series to save Tana Mongeau's career. So there was never going to be a Tana Mongeau was not the victim ever in this. Shane was setting it up that Tana was done dirty, whenever in reality, I really don't care who, you know, the worst of Michael or Tana is, but all I'm going to say is Michael provides a lot of evidence that Tana Mongeau did nothing for this event, didn't pay for it, didn't show up to meetings. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself here, but I do just want to say that I don't particularly like Michael and I don't like Tana, but all I'm saying is this series makes Michael look better than Tana, but Shane is kind of putting it out there as if the series makes Tana look better because he's like sympathizing with her, and I can't believe Michael would do this, and I can't believe, and then I'm watching it and I'm like, do you realize that you're setting this up for us to like have the amount of info that Michael did more for this than Tana and it failed, so like if she did more, maybe it wouldn't have failed. That's just my take on it right now. So then Shane finds out on camera that the police have released a statement that there were only 4,000 people outside, which debunks what Tana Mongeau was saying, which is she lied and she bragged on the day of TanaCon. If you remember, she was like, there's 20,000 people showed up for me, oh my god, 20,000 people, woo! And it became this big thing where she was like, oh my god, 20,000 people showed up, it got reckless, and that's why the event failed. However, Shane had his speculations that there wasn't 20,000 people there to start with. The police have now released a statement that there was only 4,000 people outside. Now, my favorite thing about all of this is it cuts to a clip of none other than all my OG drama people out there will know, Sanders Kennedy. It cuts to a clip of Sanders Kennedy, which is so ironic, Sanders Kennedy being included in a Shane Dawson video, because Shane Dawson was the reason that Sanders Kennedy no longer has a career. And Sanders Kennedy, if you don't know, is a drama channel. If you know, you know. And he basically was one of them, I'm going to be an investigative journalist, and overstepped the boundary on so many chances that he lost his credibility and lost his fan base. and that was whenever Shane Dawson was getting cancelled, most people were just giving Shane criticism and being like, I don't want to support him anymore, and all the drama channels were doing the same. Sanders Kennedy was like calling up all of Shane's like publishing companies, calling up Target, trying to get rid of Shane's money source, and that is you overstepping a boundary, and you then, you know, letting your audience know that that's okay to do, and that goes into the conversation about deplatforming. And regardless of where you stand with Shane, Sanders Kennedy had power in that situation to take away someone else's income. Then that goes into legal issues, and so it's funny Sanders Kennedy being included in this, because it was Shane then that people really don't like Sanders anymore. So Shane said that there were 1,000 people inside and 4,000 people outside, and that everyone, all 5,000 of them, had paid for a ticket. Now, the full thing about TanaCon was that, you know, you could pay like $65 to have like the VIP experience, but everyone could get in under a free ticket. And so Tana's saying that all these people showed up and, you know, they were getting free tickets. That wasn't actually the truth. They oversold the event by like 4,000 people, because the venue could only hold 1,000. It was literally a hotel lobby. Fuck me. So Shane then finds out that there was absolutely no permit for this event as well, and the amount of clips, by the way, that Shane uses of Keemstar throughout this entire episode is just so bizarre to me. I would never ever put Shane Dawson and Keemstar within the same wavelength, but you would think that they're besties of besties if you're like watching this, because Shane includes them so much. Okay, now we're back to the two girls. If you remember, Shane invited the two young girls that were his fans to his house. So we're now back with them. We're back with the young girls who went to TanaCon, and Shane is telling them the news, and they believe everything. He's saying about the quantity, he's saying about that everyone had paid a ticket, and they believe everything he's saying, because they're like, we were there and we were talking to everyone. So it's kind of debunked that. So now Shane is talking with Ryland about interviewing Michael, and they're in the kitchen, and says how Michael is planning on making a documentary about TanaCon, and how Michael says that this documentary is going to be very exciting, is the word that Michael uses, so painting him in a very shady way here. And then Shane opens up about the conspiracy of it all, of course, because why not for Shane, that Michael planned for this to fail. Now, y'all know I hate Ryland Adams, but I loved Ryland Adams during this episode, because then Ryland goes on to say that Shane is being dramatic as fuck, and that clearly they didn't want this event to fail, but they oversold it, which then made it fail, and they're trying to make the money back for refunds, because they have the money now, they're trying to make the money back for refunds by making the documentary. Thank you, Ryland, for being very rational here, and thank you, Shane, for including that Ryland has a rational point of view here. So then it cuts to a lot of clips of fans calling TanaCon a scam, but Shane only includes clips of Michael to be like the overlays whenever that's happening. So it's like, we want our money back, scam, scam, scam. There's never once like a clip of like Tana. It's always like Michael in the segue. So very much so the editing style immediately from Shane is setting this up that Michael was the reason this was a scam. Now that is not a balanced and fair argument, especially when at this stage, he hadn't interviewed either of them yet, and he's best friends with Tana Mongeau. So, my problem with these Shane documentaries is just that they're so, like, overwhelmingly biased. Like, there's never gonna be a chance where Michael's gonna look like the victim in this. No, Tana's gonna look like it, and then she's gonna get her career back because Shane's friends with him. Sorry. And also, remember whenever Shane got a freshly 18 Tana Mongeau to piss on him on camera? Yeah. I don't remember. Or I don't forget. I do remember, unfortunately. So again, it's just showing that this is going to be incredibly biased. And then Tana calls Shane on the phone and says how she's confused as to why Michael is ignoring her but talking to him. And Shane starts talking shit about Michael to Tana on the phone and includes it in the video. If you're gonna talk shit about him, like, don't include it in your fucking series about trying to get to the bottom of this, because it just shows again that Shane is incredibly biased in this and making Tana out to be the victim. He's talking shit about Michael before he's even spoken to Michael on the video. It's really bad. Really, really, really bad. So then Tana tells Shane that a lot of Michael's clients, who are huge influencers, and she starts listing them off, and Shane's like bleeping them out, so we don't know who they are, have reached out to her, apologizing to her, saying how they knew that this was gonna fail because they knew that anything that he does, like, turns to dust. So then we have this quote: "You're gonna take the fall and the blame, but let's straighten this out." From Shane to Tana. So he's openly saying, you're gonna take the fall for this, but let's straighten it out so that you don't have to take the fall anymore and that you get a redemption arc. Which just goes to show that the intentions, before they even got to the bottom of it, were to make Tana look okay. And for Shane crying in part 1 about, I'm just so sad that people were waiting for me and this was such a disaster and what can I do to help it? You're not doing anything to get to the bottom of it right now, so again, you're proving to be a very fake person. So then we have this quote. You also cannot just write this off on him, Shane. You need to critically interview Tana. I don't know why I struggled to say that sentence. But yeah, we have that from Ryland. You also cannot write this off on him. You have to critically interview Tana. I don't know why I struggled with that sentence there. Shane gets told this by Ryland. And I just have to do a moment of thank you fucking Ryland Adams for being the most rational person during this and calling Shane out for his clear bias here whenever it comes to Tana. And I just really, again, you're aware that I really do not like Ryland Adams, but I have to say, I really liked how he came across during this episode. It was like, he knew that Shane was going to be very biased towards Tana, and he was openly being like, you're going to get a lot of criticism if you're doing that, and also, you've been crying to me about wanting to get to the bottom of this, you're not doing a very good job of it, and I really liked Ryland's attitude during this episode. Normally he comes off as like too catty for me, which is ironic coming from the catty of catty. But like, I really did enjoy him in this episode. And then my notes literally say, thank you Ryland, I love you this moment. So then Shane says, oh well, she knows she's fucked up. Yeah, I'll talk to her about it. And that's exactly his delivery from it. So again, it goes to show that he really didn't have any intentions of like grilling into her. And he didn't. Like, not to skip ahead, but he didn't grill into her. Yeah, she fucked up, I'll talk to her about it. You didn't, really. You let her fake cry to you and then you were like, baby, do you want to piss on me again? Oh, you're not 18 anymore, I don't like that. Yeah, that's what you're dealing with, Shane. So then Shane finally FaceTimes Michael, so we're finally only talking to Michael now, even though we've talked to Tana multiple different times in the first 2 episodes. And Michael says that he isn't going to throw anybody under the bus, as that'll ruin his career. Michael says that the reason that he wants to publish the documentary is because he shows everything, they filmed everything, and it shows that Tana did nothing, and that he was really pulling the weight of the entire event. So, if he pushes the documentary out, it will completely debunk everything Tana's saying. Now, the reason I think that Shane then made this documentary was that, conspiracy theory time, Shane, was that if Michael's documentary came out first, it would make Tana look the worst and she wouldn't get her career back. But if Shane got in there first, people would watch a documentary on TanaCon, would make Michael look the villain, Tana make the victim, and then no one would care once his documentary came out. So Shane got in there first, and it's incredibly manipulative and incredibly shady. So, Michael says the reason that they made the documentary was because they thought it would be amazing to, like, film this adventure, and then Shane trolls him by, like, editing, like, winner of the Oscar is the TanaCon documentary, and just goes to show that he again, is being very biased and really not hearing Michael out, and is kind of willing to, like, make him look the villain from the get-go and make fun of him and have, like, inside jokes with the viewers about him because we've heard Shane shit-talk him so much up until this point, but Michael hasn't, so that's what we're dealing with here. So, I'm really frustrated by how Shane is editing Michael's interview, by the way. So, if Michael moves in the slightest, Shane will zoom in on that. Or if he twitches in the slightest, he'll move on that. If he stumbles over his word, he'll zoom in and he'll replay it. And his editing style is making Michael look like he's lying. Whenever he does the interview with Tana, it's like long clips with sad music in the background. So, he's setting this up for you to not like Michael. My goodness. So, Michael says, I believed in Tana, so I spent all of my money on this event. I'm gonna lose everything. I am the sole owner of Good Times, and I'm the last person who would want this to fail. You don't understand. So Michael says that. Michael's also 21, which is terrifying. Like, he's incredibly young, like, almost the same age or younger than Tana. So, then we have this quote. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it with Tana, I'm just wanting to let you know. Shane says to Michael to, like, get Michael to talk shit about Tana. Like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it with her, so you speak up. Which, he did sugarcoat it with Tana, and he really didn't get in. So, again, he's a liar. So, it then cuts to clips from the documentary that Michael was making, and it shows that Tana is focusing more so on, like, the creator parties and getting drunk than the fans' safety, the fans' enjoyment, the fans having a good time. And Shane includes this to kind of make it look like, oh, look, Tana was at a meeting. So, like, Michael's lying. Look, here she is at a meeting. But the meeting was her organizing, like, how drunk she can get the creators that are going to it. Like, that was the only thing he can show. So, the clip that he thought was going to make Tana look so good actually makes her look so bad. And I can't believe people watch this documentary thinking that that made Tana look good. I really don't know. Michael says how he argued with Tana not to do the event on the same day as VidCon, in the same venue, like around the surrounding areas of the venue, the same city, but Tana said that, you know, fuck you, we need to do it here, and they had an argument about that. Michael said that Tana is lying about everything. She didn't spend a single dollar of her own money, and the time of protecting Tana is over, Shane says, which shows he changes his entire mentality depending on who he's talking with, but he doesn't stay consistent, so it makes him look incredibly fake and a bad storyteller and a bad, like, narrator. So, about the goodie bag not being like 4 times the ticket price, Shane asked Michael about this. Michael says that Tana never met with him ever, like, whenever they were doing, like, interviews or meetings, and that she left him 2 weeks before the event to get the stuff 4 times worth the amount for the goodie bags, 2 weeks before the event, but she wasn't helping, she wasn't getting PR, so he had to order all this stuff from China. It was really cheap, it was really bad, and it literally just goes to show again that Tana was not doing any of her weight here, but Shane thought including this would make her look good, and that Michael found out that the goodie bags were going to be worth 4 times the ticket price by Tana Mongeau saying it on social media without even running it past him. Like, oh my god, I hate Tana. Like, Jesus. So, a quote is from Michael, "On Friday night when this happened, I was walking from venue to venue, crying, sorting this out, and you want to know where Tana was? She was at a Studio 71 party getting incredibly drunk." And then it cuts to clips of Tana at the party being fucking incredibly drunk, and Michael walking through the streets crying. Now again, Shane includes this, but then doesn't grill Tana on it. It's like, what the fuck? Like, this, Tana should not have been redeemed in any way. The night of TanaCon, she goes to a party getting fucking drunk while her business partner is out crying. And I don't care about Michael, but like, your fans are dealing with the repercussions of that. The creators are dealing with spending a lot of money to get out there for your event, and you're at like a private party getting fucking blazed? Girl, shut the fuck up. Like, she should not have had a career after this. So seeing Tana at the party enjoying herself, being so drunk, makes me so angry, and I really wish that she never had a career past this. And shame on Shane for knowing that he was going to save her career with this. So then Michael talks about the fact, and making her be like a victim. So then Michael talks about how Tana was also in vacation in Hawaii the day before TanaCon, so didn't even go to any meetings. So Shane says, okay, well, my goal is to give reality checks to people. But he doesn't. He doesn't. He gives one to Michael, Ryland gives one to Shane, and he just babies Tana. Like, it's so fucking annoying. So then it cuts to Shane with Morgan and Ryland, and Morgan says how she wants Shane to let Tana know that not only the fans, but the creators who were supposed to attend are frustrated and annoyed at her because they took time off work, they booked, you know, expensive hotels, they were there for the trip, they were promoting it, so they're embarrassed and frustrated, and, you know, she wants Shane to let her know that, and again, of course, he doesn't. So, Ryland says, are you trying to get to the bottom of the situation, Shane, or are you just trying to hear a bunch of different sides and do nothing with it? Ryland, baby, I love you during this episode. He was on one this episode. I fucking loved it. So then Shane says, I don't know. I'm not going to be too easy on Tana, but I also don't want to make her look too bad. And I think this tells us everything about what we need to know about Shane in this. He doesn't want to make Tana look too bad. So then Shane arrives at Tana's house and she comes out and is immediately hugging him and crying. And she goes, I'm so sorry for everything, Shane. Girl, why are you sorry to Shane? Why are you sorry to Shane? Be sorry to the fans. So Shane immediately takes like this soft, like, oh, approach them with Tana because she's like crying, but it's very clear she's fake crying, and I just think that this episode was a fucking disaster and just goes to show how unprofessional and biased and unreliable Shane Dawson's documentary style and filmmaking and storytelling is, and it really, really, really pissed me off. I really didn't enjoy it. More so than the first one, to constantly shit talk about Michael behind the scenes in the video while you're simultaneously talking to Tana, but then only give Michael the chance to speak for like 5 minutes in the middle of the episode 2. It's really shady and just goes to show again that they were making this to combat Michael's documentary, in my opinion, if we want to talk conspiracy theories, Shane. And it's just really like, it was dirty work. It was dirty work. But muckers, I want to know your opinion of this. I love you. Thank you for watching. I will see you in my next one. And let's talk about it below. Alright, I love you and I'll see you in my next one. Bye. Mwah!